All right. So one thing I want to talk to you guys today about is if it fits your macros and how just using that methodology alone isn't enough if you want to actually see the progress that you are wanting to see. So this is why flexible dieting, well, if we take a step back and we look at what your if it fits your macros actually is, you know, essentially this kind of boils down to if it fits within your specific macro parameter, it fits and it works for whatever goal that you have in mind, right? But it also ignores inflammation, hunger, and hormones if you just kind of plug and play things in there just to make it fit, if that makes sense. So, as we kind of go through this, you know always just have to keep in the back of your mind that when you're plugging in food, you also need to look at how is this going to affect my digestion, my sleep, my blood sugar. There's a bunch of things that you're going to have to look at and keep in mind if you do this approach, and we're going to dive into that and hopefully make a little more sense. So just because that you're using if it fits your macros and you check your calorie box, your protein, your carbs, your fat, it doesn't matter if you do all of those, because if it fits your macros doesn't mean that it checks every single box that it needs to check in order to see progression move forward. So, obviously tracking macros works, but it doesn't make you resistant to choosing poor quality food. You can still hit your target spot on. I mean, like if you use Chronometer or MyFitnessPal or the in-house, tracking app for you guys, and you're 100% across the board from your calories to your protein to your carbs to your fats to your fiber, all that stuff as well too. But you can still feel inflamed, hungry, bloated, or just stalled progress, even when hitting things spot on. And that's where, kind of taking a deeper look into if you're actually checking all the boxes that you need to be checking. So what if it fits your macros gets right and what it gets wrong. So the concept works. I mean, it's very appealing to a lot of people because in essence, you can basically eat anything if it fits your macros, right? And it's going to promote, higher adherence to the plan. You have flexibility within the plan, and you also have a sense of balance as well too. But where it goes wrong is how it ignores, different aspects of like bodily functions inside of the body. So like one common issue, or several common issues with this is your over reliance on low volume, like high processed foods. You're going to be ignoring digestion, biofeedback, and recovery, and you're using sugar alcohols, gums, and fake sweeteners to quote unquote hack hunger. So I know a lot of people who like to chew gum when they get in a pretty deep deficit. And, there's obviously some literature out there that'll state that if you're, chewing a lot of gum and you're putting a lot of artificial sweeteners, artificial alcohols in your in your body, in your gut, that's going to cause gut issues and things of that nature. But on paper, you're hitting your macros, right? And then if we look at the digestion and biofeedback and the recovery aspect of things, there's going to be something totally different. If you eat, let's say, 50 grams worth of rice and 50 grams worth of, I don't know, what's something overly processed like a carbohydrate, let's say a Pop-Tart or something, right? Those two are going to be, are going to affect digestion, both, kind of drastically different. And then if you keep on that same track as far as like the biofeedback goes, um, one's going to, spike your blood sugar up while the other one, is going to have more of a stable, gradual spike instead of just spiking it up and coming right back down. So basically what we're saying here is that, yes, the concept of if it fits your macros, it does work. It is good for people to have that flexibility, which will, in turn increase that adherence to the plan. But if you're ignoring everything else outside of the macros, that's where you're going wrong. So Food has to be just more than the numbers if you're using this method. Your body sees food as inputs of information, not just a calorie number, right? So every bite that you take is gonna, potentially affect hormones, inflammation, digestion, and your overall blood sugar. So for an example, if you have, a high sugary cereal versus a bowl of just regular oatmeal. It's the same carbohydrate intake, but you're going to see a very different blood sugar response from the two of those. If we look at like a protein bar versus a steak, right? Like if get two of the Quest bars, that's like 50 grams of protein there, and then you eat 6 ounces of steak. I promise you, if you eat two protein bars and you kind of rate how you feel, how your stomach feels versus after eating, a 6 ounce steak, right? You're going to feel a lot different, probably in how much bloating that your stomach is going to involve. Because I mean, let's be honest, those protein bars, they're good in a pinch. It's not something that I would use every single day, and they're going to sit on your stomach, fairly heavy. And then obviously beef is one of the most satiating macronutrients out there, whereas those protein bars are loaded with sugar and a lot of artificial flavors and sweetenings, and it's going to pass through you fairly quickly as opposed to a steak. And if we just look at like high FODMAP foods, I mean the macros do fit, but digestion just gets absolutely wrecked if we have a ton of high FODMAP foods in our diet. And so if you have flexibility without the structure, that's where the frustration can set in. So if you're an individual that I give macros to, and you're constantly 7 days a week swapping food out, it's a different food every single day. For one, I don't see how you afford to go to the grocery store and buy 30 different things. But two, I mean, it's hard to control inflammation, regulate hunger, and identify any kind of triggers, that could lead to bloating, indigestion, any kind of like digestive issues on that front too. So like, the key problems with this, if you're constantly swapping out foods every single day, inconsistent digestion, and that's going to lead to inconsistent progress as well too. I mean, if you can't go to the bathroom, I don't want to say, I don't mean constantly, but, more on a set schedule, right? Then your progress is going to be hindered by that. You have no, real rhythm, like meal timing to meals. And then you're going to have, no hunger regulation going on at all. If you have a lot of blood sugar swings, you're going to have a lot of cravings and mood dips. And then if you have a lot of cravings and mood dips, then you're going to think, oh, well, maybe instead of this, 100 grams of chicken and 200 grams of rice, let me just have a scoop of protein powder and go get a bagel and, add this nut butter to it. Like, let's just start swapping things out to hit these cravings, which, in an essence, could be fine, but then again, you have to take a look at how your fiber is affected. How that's gonna affect a lot of things downstream. So really, what I'm getting at here is just because the numbers match doesn't mean that it's a good match for you. So if we ignore food quality, there's going to be a cost that goes along with that. So if we look at the actual macros, the micros, the fiber, and the food combinations, all this stuff matters. Even if your macros again are spot on perfect, inflammation can block fat loss and can have your training sessions suck in an essence. So if you're having constant bloating or gas, have cravings, even after, hitting all of your food, during the day, you could have some blood sugar swing spikes there that is, coming from this more flexible diet approach. If you look puffy or soft, more or less you're retaining water weight, you're having inflammation on your body, even in a hard deficit. And then again, this kind of ties into water retention. If you see like a big, spike on the scale, but you look at your macro breakdown and you hit them all perfectly 7-10 days. But if our food structure is different across those 7 days, that could be a big indication that somewhere in this diet plan that you have, you didn't take into effect of the other factors just outside of the macros. So here's a real life example. So these two meals are going to have the exact same macros, but drastically different effects on your digestion, hunger, and your inflammation. So, what I did here is just a very basic meal that I had earlier, honestly. It's chicken rice, avocado oil. This is going to be high satiety. I mean, I got through like three-quarters of it and I was slap full. So high satiety, smooth digestion, stable blood, stable blood sugars, clean energy, from this, no like artificial highs, essentially. Um, it's anti-inflammatory fats, low bloat. So overall, a whole food meal example. This is a good one. It was like, I think the example that I come up with, it was like 50 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs, and like 10 grams of avocado oil for this one. Now, this one was the exact same macros, but you would definitely have issues with this. So this was one Quest bar. This was like one of those a 100 calorie like snack Oreo packets and like a fat free like pudding mix. And again, a lot of this is, I mean, all of this is just straight up, processed food. You're going to see, a blood sugar spike and a crash. You're probably going to have gut issues from the sugar alcohols, especially from that very high, thick density protein bar that's going to, sit on your stomach for hours and hours. And you're probably not going to be full from that. Like I said, I was very full, three-quarters of the way through this meal. Whereas, I mean, eating two little, a protein bar, one of them little small packets of little 100 calorie snack packs, and a pudding, like a kid could down this in like 5 minutes, right? So like you're going to be hungry pretty soon after that. And so again, on paper, these two are the exact same, but from a digestion, hunger, and inflammation, in a blood, sugar aspect, very different. And so if you're going to do the if it fits your macros method, what I would try to do is a structured if it fits your macros method. A lot of people tend to think that a straight meal plan, like a set meal plan, is full of just boring food, tasteless food, stuff that you just don't want to eat, right? But you do need some consistency and some quality to the meals. Like I have a fella in the program that I've been coaching for years, and one thing that he enjoys doing is we have four set meals in his meal plan. And meal four is a macro meal. So meal one, two, and three, he hits those spot on every day. His breakfast, his lunch, his pre-workout meal. That's meal, a one, two, and three. And then meal four is his post-workout meal, and I just give him macros for that meal. That way that he can, eat a meal with his family. And then by that point, right, like he's already hit, 75% of his macros, during the day, and all of that is very wholesome, healthy food, right, with the proper, fiber intake. Macros are accounted for as well too. And then, on the backside of that macro meal that he does have for that meal number four, it's something wholesome. If it's like spaghetti, that he makes at home, or like hamburgers, it's not going out to Domino's and getting a pizza and making that fit, right? Because obviously he's going to feel that a day or two later. Now, he did try that initially, and he, could start to tell that after those meals, his digestion was off, feeling sluggish during the day. So like it does come with a little bit of like trial and error on your end as well too. But kind of what it boils down to is just having a clean set meal plan with optional swaps is going to beat just random macros every single time. If you're somebody who wakes up every single day and is like, all right, I got to hit this macro count today. Let me just eat something for breakfast really quick, and I'm going to start, entering that in. And you go throughout your day and just enter stuff in as you eat it. You're going to find that you're going to get to 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and if you have a lot of food to eat, you're going to be like, holy crap, I got to eat a lot of food, before I go to bed. Or if you're somebody that's on more of a deficit, you're going to run out of food earlier in the day. So if you know ahead of time of what you're gonna eat, having more of a structured, if it fits your macros plan, that's kind of the best option to go there. Um, but overall, I mean, the main thing is just don't blindly go through it. I mean, you want to have some structure with your meals. Like me, for instance, I have 5 set meals every single day. And I do have a little bit of, flexibility within that, but it's something to where like if I don't want to eat rice with a meal, I swap that out for, cream of rice, potatoes, something that's easily swapped and, it has very, similar fiber intake. It's going to digest about the same. Essentially, just make smart choices. Don't take your chicken and rice meal and swap it out for a protein pudding, a snack, and then a protein bar because you're going to see after 2 or 3 days, you're going to be telling me, hey, my stomach hurts. I can't go to the bathroom. That's probably why. But nonetheless, anybody got any questions with any of that or anything to add to that?
The only thing I'll say is I enjoy having my set meal plan. Just because like it kind of takes the thinking out of it as far as like grocery shopping and like just the decisions that I have to make.
Yeah.
But I've messaged you before about like maybe swapping out like a few things here and there. Like one of the most recent ones I think was like the rice checks, just because
Yeah.
I was kind of getting
Yep.
getting over the amount of rice that I was eating. So I wanted to
Yeah.
like swap it out for like a different texture or something. And so, but I will say, with that being said, I didn't really think necessarily about like whenever I have a free meal or whichever about like it's more than just about the numbers
Yeah.
and the macros, and it is about like the quality of food itself, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like me, for instance, like if we go out to eat, I try to get something on the cleaner side. Like, it obviously depends on, where you go for sure. Like, and for me, when I'm bulking now, like if I'm eating 5,000 calories a day, I can't go to a restaurant and swap out a salad for a meal that I'm having chicken and rice and avocado oil because that's 1,000, 1,500 calories worth there. Like I'm not going to get that from a salad, right? So like at those aspects, like you kind of have to just do what you can. But I also plan that as well too. Like last week, for instance, when we went to the aquarium for part of our Christmas gifts, um, for my mother-in-law, like I prepped all of my food. I took it with me. I knew that we were probably going to eat somewhere in Atlanta before we left. So I left, you know, 50 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs and like 20 grams of fat for that, a particular meal. And I found something on the menu that I thought was probably pretty close, to that. It didn't have the macros, listed out for it, but I got as close as I could and just called it a day because I know that's not the normal, right? So that's kind of how I approach it as well too. So
I was just going to add, um, if anyone finds this helpful, if you're wanting to swap some macros out and keep it similar, like I've even used in the past, like ChatGPT. I know Jacob's mentioned ChatGPT before too for that, but like saying, here's the macros that I have, and if I was gonna grab a meal out, like what do you suggest that's still similar, like in terms of fiber and fats and stuff, like throw out some ideas. And it'll even come back and be like a so and so ounce burger at a restaurant and this much fries and whatnot. So it's kind of helpful to have something like that. It helps eliminate, I think, some of the decision fatigue too. If you're like just wanting something different and then not really sure what direction to go.
yeah, no, that's honestly a great point. I've never used it in that aspect, as far as like, hey, I have this many macros left. I'm going to go out to this restaurant. What can I get? I'll have to definitely give that a try. One thing that I have done in the past is I had an individual who really was big on having like family dinners every single night with his, kids and his wife. And so what we did there was like, hey, let's have, that last meal of the day, a macro meal. And, he had his macros listed out. And I said, the best thing for you to do is say, hey, this is, get on chat a GPT and say, hey, this is what I have in my fridge. This is what we're thinking about making. I have, 2 pounds of hamburger meat. I have a box of spaghetti. I have, flour tortillas here. Like give it like what you actually have at home. Give it the macros that you need to make work and then just see what it says. And he, found that pretty helpful. No, now obviously there's going to be some user error in there if you don't measure it out right. But I mean, it at least gets you to that point. So that's definitely helpful. I haven't used it for the restaurants yet, but I definitely have to give that a shot. Now, I will say Miss Allison does the macros like every single day. Do you have anything to add to this, Miss Allison? Anything that you've noticed or any tips or tricks at all?
No, I mean, I have like, I have the same breakfast every morning just because I know, I mean, that's just what I like. And then usually I will have the same lunch and then I'm gonna kind of fill everything else in. So I kind of just see what I'm gonna make for dinner that night.
Yep.
So like I get up in the morning, go to the gym, and then come home, make breakfast, and then from there, I'm like, all right, what am I making for dinner? And then I put dinner, and then I just fill everything else in. So I have like rice cakes, blueberries, bananas, and I kind of use those as fillers.
Yep.
So like where I'm kind of lacking. So I try to stay away from a lot of processed foods. But now you've got me second guessing because the last thing I eat every night is one of those Bear Bells protein bars. It's like the highlight of my day. But now I'm like, should I be having that every night or no?
I think the biggest thing there though for you, like if I would just pay attention to your digestion. I mean, if it starts to get, if it starts to get backed up, or if you feel like something is getting a little wonky there, like that's probably the first thing that I would look at. There obviously are cleaner protein bars as opposed to other ones. I know there's some out there that taste like chalk and they probably sit on your stomach like a stick of chalk would too. They're probably pretty rough. But I think the Bear Bells and I think the RX bars are two pretty good ones that a lot of people use. So I don't know. I mean, I've even had people eat Halo Top ice cream, every day as well too, and it did fit in their macros, but it wasn't the whole pint. But still,
Yeah.
that was more that was more for hey, I know that we can't give up everything that you love, kind of thing, but like here, try this ice cream, see if you like this ice cream, it's a decent ice cream kind of thing. So but no, I think you're okay to do that again, as long as your digestive stays okay, you don't have any issues with that, I think you're fine. So
Okay.
anybody else got anything to add? Rihanna, I caught you in Jacob's camera. Oh man.
That was a sneaky snake.
I think Jacob he actually zoomed in on you, so but anyway. But no, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys got anything else, you know where to find me. If you guys got any suggestions as far as weekly coaching calls, I am honestly running out of ideas. This is like a year and a half of me doing these, and I'm getting slim on ideas. So I don't want to start having to repeat things. But yeah, if you guys ever got any ideas about topics to speak on, always give me a little bit of insight and I can do that. But anyway, regardless, hope you guys have a great Thursday. And I'll talk to you guys soon.